So this may be the most researched episode we've done so far.
Yeah, and one of the things we noticed is that there are many different versions of both the whiskey and the Amaretto Sour that we found.
So stay tuned, and we're going to show you our versions of both.
Hey, what's up everyone? This is Eddie from Average Joe Drinks.
And I'm Vince, and we're here to make drinks suitable for the average Joe, just like my dad intended when he spent decades accumulating drink recipes. We now have over 11,000. We're going to share some with you.
Yeah, and we are Average Joes, so we wanted to make sure we test some of these drinks out, and we're bringing the ones to you that we think taste the best. So sit back, enjoy, and please try this at home.
So today we're doing sours. The idea came about when Eddie was standing around saying that he was a sourpuss. Whiskey
true.
sour, Amaretto sour. I'm going to let you go with the whiskey sour. Eddie's actually spent a lot of time. If you've been watching our Facebook page, you've been seeing some of his experiments. Here we go.
Yeah, and I'm going to make a more traditional sour, and I tried multiple different, it's traditional and it's not, and you'll see why. I do have an egg, and I'm going to use this egg.
Did you lay that egg?
It hurt. And when we made the eggnog video, hopefully you checked it out. If not, we'll post it for you. You can check that out later. But we're going to use an egg white for our drink, and I'll talk about why. In the traditional, it calls for just lemon juice. I tried it. I thought it was a little too tart, so I actually added some lime juice. That's where the variation comes in, as well as the egg. The egg, a lot of people call it a Boston whiskey sour. Some people just call it a whiskey sour, but we're going to utilize that. So let's get this started. And then one thing we're going to do differently now that we've never done before is we're going to do what's called dry shaking. So what that means is a dry shake means you're going to shake it without the ice.
Oh, okay.
And the reason why we're doing that, because we are adding an egg white, and I'm just going to separate this egg white here, but because we are adding an egg white, we want to sort of emulsify it a little bit first. So we're going to dry shake this, and all that means is that we're going to shake it without the ice. Emulsify it, we really want it to kind of come together and kind of get a better texture. If we have the ice in there, it's going to break it up, and the proteins aren't going to be able to come together quite as much. So that's why we're doing that. I've got 1 ounce, just over an ounce of simple syrup per drink. So we're going to 2 ounces of that. I've already got that pre-measured. As I stated, it does call for traditionally calls for just lemon juice. I added lime. I thought it kind of mellows out the lemon juice a little bit. So 1 ounce of lemon juice and 1/2 ounce of lime juice per drink.
All sours actually had a mixture of lemon and lime going back centuries, and we'll cover that in a second.
Yes. So I've got a rye whiskey, and I do 2 ounces of whiskey per drink. So that's really going to fill up this whole entire measuring thing here. And now we're going to
Shake it.
dry shake first. And basically what that does, by not having the ice in there, like I said, it just allows it really to come together and kind of gives it a better smooth, silky kind of texture. So now we're going to, this has been sitting around for a little bit, make sure I don't water down my drink.
That's what it's all about, though, right? How it feels inside your mouth.
Yep, yeah, it's definitely mouthfeel. So now
There are a lot of drinks that have egg whites in them, and we can go into more detail on that too.
yeah, and with this, you don't want to get too crazy with this, but because I've already emulsified it, I just want to get it nice and cold. So I'm just going to shake it up.
So for people who worry about egg whites and getting sick, remember you're mixing with alcohol.
It's going to kill a lot of it
So
out there.
you're not really taking any risks here.
But as a disclaimer, please drink at your own risk, because it is raw.
Responsibly. It's raw eggs, yeah, you got to be careful about stuff, but it's not as gross as it might seem on the surface. It's actually kind of nice.
So I've got these cups, and all I've done is just keep that ice in there just to get it nice and cold. All right, so with this one here, as you've seen, I've kind of got the glass nice and cold. I've got this cool little contraption here that makes these 2-inch square ice cubes. I like it for 2 reasons. One, it actually makes it look kind of cool. But 2, because it is a 2-inch square, it doesn't water down the drink quite as fast. So it's not a necessity, but I definitely like it quite a bit better.
And this was not expensive, was it? This
$8. I mean, it's not that expensive at all. So now we're gonna go ahead and you see the egg white kind of gives it that nice silky texture and that color. Without the egg white, the ones that we've tried, it almost looks more like a lemonade. And now the garnish with these, I've got a lemon wedge, but what you notice here is I've got a different maraschino cherry. Now, Vince and I were watching one of the YouTube channels about it, and the guy was definitely enjoyed saying it differently. He said maraschino and was really kind of trying
maraschino.
Yeah, oh yes.
Just differentiating between the two. Tomato, tomato, potato, potato.
Bottom line is what it does, it's a lot richer. It's got a syrup in there. You can actually use that syrup and make your drinks better. But to me, I just find that gives it a much more classic, kind of an elegant look almost. So that's your whiskey sour.
With the Luxardo? How's it
Luxardo, yes. And you can go
Cherry?
buy that. They are quite a bit more expensive than the regular maraschino cherries. But to me, a drink like this, I think it's worth it. So, cheers.
So with the garnish, okay, so the cherry's not adding a lot to the garnish. It's not as smelly, which is
Purely a
interesting
look.
because, but you can smell the lemon.
Yeah, that's my favorite recipe.
Oh, yeah. And I know that you know because I know that you spent like the last 2 weeks working on whiskey sours.
One thing I forgot to put in there that I edited out is don't forget to put a couple of dashes of the bitters in there. It does kind of really round out that flavor nicely. So once you go ahead and taste it with the bitters and let me know what you think. Yeah, don't forget the bitters. Oh
Yeah,
man,
that
it was
adds a
good
lot.
before, but it really adds
That adds
depth
a
of
lot.
flavor. Oh
That's
my gosh.
awesome.
Yeah, that's a really, really good drink. I like that. And as you saw, I had about 6 or 7 different versions. One thing to take note of though, my wife is not really a big whiskey drinker.
And even she likes these.
Yeah, she likes these, but I also modified it for her. So what I did, and those that are traditionalists, go ahead and close your ears. I want you to get mad. So I did not add the egg white, and I added a little bit of grenadine to kind of sweeten it out and just take a little bit of edge off the whiskey. So if you have someone that maybe might not like it, I use a good whiskey. I think it's a great drink, but that's just another version that you can do for someone that might not like it quite as much. There you go, there's the whiskey sour.
That's awesome. Okay, so sours. You just made a whiskey sour. We're about to make an Amaretto Sour. I thought it would be fun to kind of go into the history of the sour. British Royal Navy. Back in the day when people were sailing around the world, they had a hard time keeping their food fresh. Even water would go bad. They'd store it in barrels and that stuff would mildew and everybody would get sick. So the Royal Navy actually used to give alcohol to their sailors. And also to prevent scurvy, they would give them lemon juice and lime juice.
Right.
So for mixologists everywhere, we have to pay homage to Vice Admiral Edward Vernon of the Royal Navy, who came up with the idea of adding the lemon and lime juice to the alcohol and then serving it to his sailors.
Brilliant.
The early sours were made out of the rum ration, the lime juice, and the lemon juice. When these sailors would get out of the Navy, they went on shore, they fine-tuned the sours, and here we are. So the original sours were rum sours. You did a whiskey sour.
I did.
I'm about to do an Amaretto Sour. Now Amaretto is like, the Amaretto Sour is kind of an 80s drink. We talked about it in our blog. A lot of moms that can't get out of the 80s are still ordering it, kids with fake IDs.
Big hair.
Amaretto, believe it or not, is not an almond drink. People think that it's almond. Amaretto is made out of apricot pits, so if you have a nut allergy, you can have an Amaretto Sour. But check the labels, just to be on the safe side. Some of these manufacturers are going to add some almond flavoring. If you have a nut allergy, check, make sure. So an Amaretto Sour is very simple.
Well, one thing that's interesting though, you talk about the sours, and a lot of times you'll see kind of the ratios that you get with the sweet and the sour. It kind of comes from like the traditional punch. So a punch ratio, you've got 4. You've got 1 part sour, 1 part sweet, 1 part sour, 2 parts sweet, 3 part strong, 4 parts weak. And it's not the exact ratio, but it's almost kind of goes hand in hand, and it's a really similar makeup to the drink.
And that's a good rule of thumb, right? You can use that regardless of what you're making.
Yeah, and if you're going to make a punch, so we might go into an actual episode on punches, but I would actually add spice as a 5th element to that.
Okay, so an Amaretto Sour follows the same basic idea. You're dealing with an alcohol, you're going to add some lemon and lime to it.
Right.
I am going to just go ahead with 3 ounces of Amaretto per drink, because we're making 2.
Always make 2 drinks.
We're going to go with 2 ounces of sweet and sour. So So I've added some sweet and sour. Sweet and sours are effectively lemon juice and simple syrup. Okay.
Which is interesting because it's similar to, I had lemon juice and simple syrup. I just had it separate.
In the world of sours, these are relatively recent ones. You got your alcohol, you've got your lemon. I'm going to top this off with some lemon lime soda. It's not considered the traditional one, but it really does make for a nice drink. Gives a little bit of fizz, a little bit of mouthfeel, a little bit of sweetness.
I think what's nice, if you have carbonation, the bubbles come up and you also get the aroma again.
Right.
Using another sense as you're tasting your drinks.
And as a garnish, we're going to put some oranges, and we're going to use your maraschino cherries. So this is very floppy, this is very extravagant. We're going for a look here. I'll just sink in there. And here is your Amaretto Sour. Again, at our blog, we've tried very, very different versions of this. If you want to do a stone sour, you add orange juice in addition to your lemon and lime.
Okay, so
And an Amaretto Stone is really good. And
so
the orange juice goes well with the Amaretto.
So when you say orange, you add the orange juice. You don't do the sweet and sour, but you still add lemon lime soda, or you add all three citruses?
Well, there's a lot of different things that we've got on our website. I think I've got 6 different Amaretto sour versions. If you do any form of orange juice, it becomes a stone sour as opposed to just a sour. So you can have a whiskey stone sour. You can have, you know, rum, all of the big alcohols, all the popular ones.
All right,
So
well,
here we go.
And we do have the nice cubed ices in there, the 2-inch cube.
Because it's hip to be square.
It is hip to be square. Just ask you. Cheers.
So as you can see, there's a little bit of layering going on. As you get down in there, you're going to have more of the Amaretto flavor.
It does taste like almond, though. That's interesting.
It does. And it's not almond.
Oh, that's good.
So here's to Vice Admiral Edward Vernon, or as we commonly refer to him around here, as Eddie.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great drink. I like that. You know, the lemon lime soda does kind of add a little bit too.
And I gotta admit, when we were testing these out, we were leaning towards the
That's good.
Stone Sour. And if you look at the blog, the recipe that we put on the blog is not this recipe, because the whole idea of putting the 7-Up in there, we resisted at first. We didn't want to do that. We thought that was not going to be a good drink. Lisa and I tried it, I don't know, last week, and she told me to change her mind. She's like, yeah, this is my favorite from now on.
You know, and that's a great point. A lot of times you have people that are cocktail snobs and traditionalists, and while there is something to be said for being traditional, don't be afraid to kind of go out on a limb and try something different. You never know, you're going to find something that might even taste better to you, which you're paying for the alcohol. Make it like you like. So
It's personal, yeah. That's the truth. I mean, really, it's like these French people who say that you have to have white wine with chicken and red wine with beef, and do what you like.
Yeah.
Drink what you want. Responsibly.
Responsibly.
Don't get crazy. I mean, not too crazy. So we hope you found this video entertaining. If you did, please hit the like button below. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comments section below. If you want future tips, tricks, additional recipes, hit that subscribe button.
Yeah, and please look for us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Please make sure you do drink responsibly, and stay tuned for more great episodes. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.